where ESPN programming really doesn't air. They have TSN. You can catch me on there, too, if the NBA Finals was any indication, since they carried the Stephen A. Smith Show right there in Toronto, Canada as well. The number to call up, as always, is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by mycomputercareer.edu. Training for a better life. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. I like to add best phones, best networks, no contracts. Look, before we get into the real crux of anything else that's been going on, and John, if my producers, when y'all get a chance, can I get some tissue in here, please? I'm busy sniffling on the national airwaves. I need some tissue, please. There's some things that's going on that's percolating. Our very own Adrian Wojnarowski, ultimate NBA insider extraordinaire, reported about an hour ago that the Memphis Grizzlies, possessors of the number 2 overall pick in this coming NBA draft. By the way, my producer, JC, it's not his fault. It's mine. The damn thing was right behind the computer. I didn't see it. Sorry, JC. That's my bad. Anyway, I'm sniffling. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the deal. The Memphis Grizzlies, holders of the number 2 overall pick in this upcoming NBA draft, 1 pick ahead of the New York Knicks, has traded guard Mike Conley to the Utah Jazz for Grayson Allen, Kyle Korver, and Jay Crowder, along with the 23rd pick in Thursday's NBA draft and a future first-round pick, according to sources. The Jazz will send a protected 2020 first-round pick to the Grizzlies. That pick will convey as a late lottery pick in 2020 or 2021 or become a lightly protected pick from 22 to 24. The deal will be complete as of July 6th. Conley, for those of you who don't know, is 31 years of age, played all 12 seasons of his NBA career in Memphis, averaged 21, 6, and 3 per game last season, is considered a stellar point guard, class individual too, by the way. Really, really great guy, leader, floor general, great in the community as well. This is a guy that is the Grizzlies' career leader in points, assists, 3-pointers, as well as games played. He is signed through the 2020-21 season with base salaries of $32.5 million and $34.5 million, respectively, over the next 2 seasons. Good move for the Utah Jazz. Good move for them. If you're the Memphis Grizzlies, it appears clearly obvious why you're willing to trade away Mike Conley. It's because you're about to draft Ja Morant with the number 2 overall pick. If you're the New York Knicks, what does that mean? You turn down an opportunity to get 2 first-round picks from the Atlanta Hawks, excuse me, because you wanted to hold on to the 3rd overall pick, presumably R.J. Barrett. But then you hear varying reports indicating that the Knicks are not completely sold on R.J. Barrett at number 3, that Darius Garland, who was rejected to go number 4 out of Vanderbilt to the Los Angeles Lakers before they traded that pick in the Anthony Davis deal. So if you're the New York Knicks, there's some intrigue. And here's the reason why. Because if the Knicks are not sold on R.J. Barrett, it prompts a couple of questions. Number one, should they? Are they wrong not to be sold on him? Should they be sold on him? Should he definitively be the number 3 overall pick? Zion Williams' teammate, his teammate at Duke, R.J. Barrett, team's leading scorer. Is this a guy that should definitively be the number 3 overall pick? Or, if you are the New York Knicks, are you absolutely right in considering him a question mark, assuming they feel that way, because we don't know. And as a result, you decide to go the route of Darius Garland out of Vanderbilt or DeAndre Hunter out of Virginia. I don't think the Knicks are going that route. I think it'll be R.J. Barrett or Darius Garland. That's my personal opinion. But those are legitimate questions about the New York Knicks right now. So that's something to think about. That's something to keep in your mind, because it's something that's going to be percolating over the next few days before Thursday's NBA draft takes place. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Something else that we obviously have to touch on is the situation involving CP3 and the Houston Rockets. Because according to various reports, CP3 has demanded a trade with the Houston Rockets. He wants out of Houston. He's not getting along with James Harden, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's what I can tell you. I spoke to CP3 myself yesterday. Emphatically and categorically denies that there's any truth to the reports whatsoever. He says, on my kids, I have never demanded a trade. Ever. It is not true. It is patently false. It never happened. That's what he wants to say. Okay? And we'll go with it from there. CP3 did not demand a trade. He did not verbalize. He has not in any kind of official or unofficial capacity demanded a trade from the Houston Rockets. Here's what I can tell you. CP3 is definitely looking to move on. CP3 definitely understands the business of the NBA and understands that when you come up short in back-to-back playoff appearances, Western Conference Finals, you go down in Game 5, Game 6, and Game 7. The Houston Rockets ultimately lose that series and end up not going to the NBA Finals. And then this year, Kevin Durant goes down in Game 5. CP3 is still healthy, ready to play, and they still can't get it done. They give up a fourth quarter lead, and Steph Curry and those boys saved the day in Game 5 after Kevin Durant went down. And then in Game 6, after going scoreless in the first half, Steph Curry drops 33 points in the second half. Golden State wins the game and the series, infuriating owner Tillman Fertitta. And if you're Tillman Fertitta, who inherited this team and ultimately had to honor salary commitments to certain players, mainly CP3, who's getting paid $38 million next season, $41 million the season after that, and then has a player option to collect $44 million. You're damn right Fertitta's looking to make moves. The question is, can you move CP3, A, or B, is that really the problem with the Houston Rockets? Because I'm here to tell you something right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm coming from an entirely different angle. Now, CP3 clearly is not the CP3 he used to be. He's missed 24 games each of the last 2 seasons. Both of his years in Houston, he's played 116 of a possible 164 games. He's only missed 2 playoff games, but they were 2 playoff games that some believe cost him a title. Because the belief is that CP3, had he not gotten hurt, Houston would have won. Not by me. I don't believe that. I think Golden State still would have beaten them. But there are many people out there that believe the way Houston was flowing up 3-2 in that series, that CP3, if he was available for Game 6 and 7, and Game 7 was at the Toyota Center in Houston, that CP3 and the Houston Rockets would have went to the finals and ultimately would have won it. They believe they would have beat LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. You got a lot of people who believe that. So basically, they believe that CP3's injury cost Houston a title. I'm going to take it a step further. And I'm going to tell you that although CP3 is not the player he used to be, he's still an all-star caliber player when healthy. I know his numbers were down. Shots, field goal percentage, three-point shooting percentage. I get all of that. I still think he's an all-star caliber point guard. And I don't think CP3 is the problem in Houston. I think Mike D'Antoni's the problem. And if Mike D'Antoni is listening, my apologies, sir. I'm not trying to sit up there and say you should be fired. I'm not trying to sit up there and say you don't deserve to be a head coach in the NBA. That's not where I'm going with this. I hope you're listening, Daryl Morey. Because I got a real problem with some of the stuff that I've heard echoed out of Daryl Morey's mouth, who I am very fond of. And I talk to quite often during an NBA season. I have profound respect for Daryl Morey, who I think has done a great job. And I genuinely like him. And it doesn't hurt that I love his wife, too, who's a big-time General Hospital fan, which means she's a Brick fan, by the way. But that's a different subject for another day. My point is, Daryl Morey's done a good job. I think Daryl Morey has made a mistake by hitching his wagon to Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni's going to win your basketball game. Don't worry about Mike D'Antoni winning 50-plus games in the regular season when he's got the talent. With his offensive innovativeness, there's no question Mike D'Antoni's going to win you your games during the regular season. There's no question that he's going to win you playoff series. The question is, whoever is standing on the mountaintop, is Mike D'Antoni the coach to get you over the hump? The answer is no, unequivocally. Didn't do it in Phoenix. Never had a chance to do it in New York. Couldn't do it in L.A. and hasn't done it in Houston. The man's had 4 bites at the apple. He's been a head coach for the vast majority of the last 15 years in the NBA. How many chances do you need? How many chances? Mike D'Antoni, his system is not going to beat an elite team in the NBA with a title on the line in a best-of-7 series. Mike D'Antoni could beat anybody for one night. You got one game, you need a title. Mike D'Antoni can bring it to you. A best-of-4 series against an elite team, Mike D'Antoni's system is not going to get it done. He doesn't prioritize nor care about defense nearly as much as he should. And he runs his stars into the ground throughout the regular season. So come postseason time, what do they have left? Yes, James Harden is a superstar. Yes, James Harden can ball out. Yes, James Harden ain't an accident. He averaged 36 a game. All of that is true. But the reality is, if we're being completely and totally honest, the reality is, what do you expect from James Harden? He's an ISO player. That's not going to beat elite teams come postseason time. And if CP3 has a problem with that, how are we going to blame him for that? Again, I spoke to CP3 yesterday. This notion that him and James Harden haven't spoken since the season has ended, he's categorically denied. There's a few weeks they went where they didn't communicate with one another. Vacations, family, other priorities, et cetera, et cetera. That's about it. But ultimately, they did speak. According to CP3. This friction, friction inside the locker room after the Game 6 loss to Golden State, categorically denied. Austin Rivers came on First Take, live on television, said complete fallacy. No truth to that. So now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's understand what I'm trying to say here. Officially, the Houston Rockets, CP3, Daryl Morey, Austin Rivers, a former Houston Rockets, he's free agent now. All that stuff. All of these guys categorically denied. PJ Tucker, all of them. James Harden, all of them. Categorically denied. To me personally, no, it never happened. Never happened. No friction in the locker room where they got to be separated. Didn't happen. Do they butt heads on the court? Sometimes you're damn right they do, like every team does. That's true. Then we get to the offseason. Did CP3 officially demand a trade? No, he did not. Took the liberty of speaking to me yesterday from the golf course. Categorically denied it. So with that being the case, does that mean that translates into him wanting to stay in Houston? Of course it does not. Because you may not have demanded a trade. And you may not have asked officially out, particularly when you're on the cusp of getting paid $38, $41, and $44 million over the next 3 years. To an organization that honored the commitment that was made to you by a previous owner. But that doesn't mean he necessarily wants to stay or thinks this is the best situation for him. My problem with everybody else is this insatiable appetite to point the finger at CP3 or James Harden instead of Mike D'Antoni. What other coach do you know would allow one individual to dominate the ball as much as James Harden dominates the ball? And then when somebody else is running the offense, people are looking at James Harden not moving without the basketball, lollygagging around. I don't disrespect James Harden like that. My position with James Harden is simple. What the hell you expect him to do if every play he has the ball in his hands? Of course, if somebody else has the ball, he's going to stand around. He's taking his break whenever he can. Don't get me started with him on defense. He's taking his break whenever he can. What do you expect him to do? But that still isn't something that's beneficial to CP3 or an Eric Gordon or people like that. They're running an offense. And there are other things that they want to do. They want to be able to run a show. And they want everybody participating. They want everybody involved. How can you do that? if James Harden is not participating. And to me, you look at D'Antoni, because maybe if D'Antoni didn't run him into the ground, he'd move without the basketball a bit more. Keep in mind, there's the same James Harden that when he played in Oklahoma City, there was a debate as to whether or not he was the better point guard for Oklahoma City than Russell Westbrook. Have y'all forgotten that? That was an argument. That was a discussion. So it's not about what James Harden can or can't do. It's about what he's willing to do. And part of what he's willing to do revolves around D'Antoni's ability to, A, coach it, and B, insist upon it. Which is one of the reasons you want to know what you're not paying attention to. You're not paying attention to the fact that Fertitta and Daryl Morey got rid of two of their assistant coaches. Evidently, they feel there's a stronger voice that's needed to coach James Harden. And my response is, if there's a stronger voice that's needed, why the hell is Mike D'Antoni still a coach? It's just a question. I'm not saying Mike D'Antoni should be gone. I'm not saying he's not a good coach. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm saying if those are clearly the questions, why is Mike D'Antoni still a coach? What sense does that make? Your head coach has to be somebody that could get all up in you and insist that things are done a certain way. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show. If you're looking at ESPN News, you're watching the Stephen A. Smith Radio Show. I covered Allen Iverson and Larry Brown for the first 10 years. There is no way in hell. And Allen AI is my little brother. Little brother I never had. That's my man. Okay? We thick as thieves. And I'm proud to say that. Let me be very clear. You think James Harden is a harder personality to coach than Allen Iverson? Because if you do, you don't, forget knowing basketball, you don't know human beings. You think Shaq's hard-headed. You think Kobe's hard-headed. You think James Harden's hard-headed. You think Russell Westbrook's hard-headed. Man, you ain't coach Allen Iverson. You talk about a brother that lived by the Frank Sinatra creed. I did it my way. Oh, no, you don't know. You have no clue. That is a brother that operated to his own beat. I'm going to give you a little background, and I'm going to put it in a perspective that Allen Iverson may have never chose to. Unfairly incarcerated, thanking his heavenly father for Governor Douglas Wilder, who granted him clemency on his last day in office to get him out of prison for that bowling alley brawl. After what Allen Iverson went through, John Thompson had an opportunity to tell him what to do, and John Thompson MF'd him every day. Allen Iverson said that was his middle name. Allen MF and Iverson. Because that's how John Thompson talked to him. Out of love, of course. And that's about the last person that could really, really, really get away with, telling him what to do. Because Allen Iverson was at Georgetown trying to make a name for himself or reestablish his greatness and ultimately end up being the number one overall pick in the NBA draft. That was Allen Iverson. Did that stop Larry Brown from getting all up in him? Did that stop Larry Brown from saying, yeah, Stephen, you just don't understand, Stephen. He doesn't listen. He's just hard-headed, Stephen. You don't get it, Stephen. I don't understand why you even ask me, Stephen. What the hell are you asking me? We get another shooter for. What difference does it make, Stephen? He's not going to pass the ball anyway. He's just going to shoot the ball, Stephen. Why are you even asking me those questions, Stephen? That's what I dealt with. That's what I dealt with. I dealt with Larry Brown telling, Stephen, what do you expect, Stephen? Come on now. And Allen Iverson, man, turn on that tape recorder, man. Yo, man, if I got the ball, right, and I dribble the ball to half court, right, it take about 5, 6, maybe 8 seconds sometimes, right? Yeah. And then after that, I give up the ball to Aaron McKee, right? And he gives it to George Lynch. And he gives it to Tyrone Hill. And he gives it to Dikembe Mutombo. And y'all give the ball back to me. Evidently, you didn't want to shoot anyway. What the hell am I supposed to do? It's a true story. It's a true story. You don't believe me? Ask Larry Brown. Ask Al Iverson. Ask Billy King. They all know I'm telling the truth. You can't make this stuff up. But Larry Brown coached him, which is why Allen Iverson reveres Larry Brown. Larry Brown coached him, which is why he's a Hall of Famer. Larry Brown coached him, which is why Larry Brown had the nickname Mr. Fix-It. Because until his career was tarnished when he became a coach of the New York Knicks, Larry Brown was considered one of the greatest coaches we've ever seen. And by the way, I'm here to tell you something right now. As far as I'm concerned, somebody should pull a Jerry West with what he did with Hubie Brown. Remember when Jerry West was the executive and the president of basketball operations for the Memphis Grizzlies, and then ultimately he got Hubie Brown to be his coach? And you're like, where the hell has this come from? All these young, aspiring coaches out here, relatable to today's players. You give us Hubie Brown, and I said then, it was a brilliant hire. Why? Because Hubie Brown is a teacher. The man has forgotten more basketball than most people will ever know. It's just that he so happens to be great with television and radio, too. Larry Brown, I don't know how he would be on radio and television, but I'm here to tell you something right now. It's a damn travesty that one of these young coaches don't have Larry Brown on his staff. It's a damn travesty that Larry Brown isn't still a head coach somewhere for somebody in the NBA right now because he's a teacher. And we got a whole bunch of people with talent that don't know how to play and refuse to play the right way. So if Larry Brown couldn't be your head coach, he should at least be on somebody's staff. But that's just me. But we here talk about James Harden and CP3. But we have nothing to say about Mike D'Antoni. I don't understand that. I don't get that. Maybe somebody can explain. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless. Everything for less only at Walmart. We'll continue as the show progresses with your phone call. Got a special guest coming on. Start hour number 2. I'm also going to get into the Boston Celtics, because Lord have mercy, how things have collapsed on Danny Ainge's watch. I'll explain to you exactly what I'm talking about and then some, and just continue to crystallize free agency and some of the teams who may win and some of the teams who may benefit and some of the teams who may lose when all is said and done. It's just a matter of weeks away before we know who the winners and losers are. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, when